On a quiet Sunday night in August 1989, the affluent neighborhood of Beverly Hills, California, was shaken by a brutal double homicide. Jose and Kitty Menendez were found shot to death in their mansion, sparking what would become one of the most controversial and sensational trials in American legal history. But the true shock came when their killers were revealed to be none other than their own sons, Lyle and Eric Menendez. Today, we'll dive deep into the infamous Menendez Brothers case, from the privileged lives they led to the horrific crime they committed, and the courtroom drama that would captivate the nation. Were they cold-blooded killers or victims of long-term abuse seeking a way out? Let's explore the twisted web of family secrets, betrayal, and murder. Jose and Kitty Menendez were the epitome of the American dream. Jose, a self-made Cuban immigrant, rose to the top of the entertainment industry, becoming a successful executive at companies like RCA Records and Live Entertainment. Kitty, a former beauty queen, focused on raising their two sons, Lyle and Eric, in a life of luxury. The family moved from Princeton, New Jersey to Beverly Hills, California, where they lived in a sprawling mansion, enjoyed expensive vacations, and sent their sons to the finest schools. Lyle, the elder of the two, was charming and confident, while Eric was more introverted and sensitive. Both brothers were involved in sports, with Lyle attending Princeton University and Eric showing promise as a tennis player. From the outside, they seemed like the perfect privileged family, but behind closed doors, the picture was much darker. Despite their wealth and status, the Menendez family was far from perfect. Jose was described as a domineering, controlling father with high expectations for his sons, and Kitty was said to struggle with depression and alcoholism. Tensions simmered beneath the surface, with the family dynamics growing more strained as Lyle and Eric entered their teenage years. Little did anyone know this tension would soon erupt into a deadly confrontation. On August 20th, 1989, the Menendez family's lives were changed forever. That evening, Lyle and Eric left their Beverly Hills home and drove to a local movie theater, later claiming they were out for the night. When they returned, the brothers unleashed a savage attack on their parents. Jose and Kitty Menendez were sitting in their living room watching television when Lyle and Eric entered with shotguns. Without warning, the brothers opened fire, hitting their father first. Jose was shot in the head, dying almost instantly. Kitty, who had been asleep on the couch, woke up in a panic and tried to flee, but the brothers shot her multiple times, reloading their weapons and firing again until she too was dead. The crime scene was horrific, with blood and body parts scattered across the room. After the murders, Lyle and Eric calmly disposed of the evidence, hiding the shotguns and changing their clothes before returning home. At 11:47 p.m., Lyle made a frantic 911 call, crying hysterically and telling the dispatcher, "Someone killed my parents." When police arrived, the brothers were in tears, seemingly distraught over the murders. Initially, investigators believed the crime might have been a mafia hit or a robbery gone wrong, given Jose's high-profile business dealings. For the first few months, Lyle and Eric were not considered suspects. In fact, they were seen as grieving sons who had just lost their parents in a brutal crime. However, their behavior in the months following the murders began to raise eyebrows. The brothers went on extravagant shopping sprees, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on luxury cars, expensive clothes, and even a restaurant. Lyle bought a Rolex watch while Eric hired a tennis coach and traveled the world. The brothers moved into a luxury condominium in Marina del Rey and spent their inheritance freely. While police were still investigating the murders, Lyle and Eric seemed to be enjoying their newfound wealth without any signs of grief or remorse. Investigators began to question how two grieving sons could act so nonchalantly after such a horrific event. As the investigation progressed, police grew increasingly suspicious of the brothers. Then, in March 1990, the case took a dramatic turn. Eric Menendez, consumed by guilt, confessed the murders to his therapist, Dr. L. Jerome Oziel. During one of their sessions, Eric broke down and admitted to killing his parents, describing the event in gruesome detail. The confession was explosive, but Dr. Oziel kept it secret until he felt threatened by Lyle, who confronted him and warned him to keep quiet. Fearful for his life, Dr. Oziel told his mistress, who urged him to go to the police. Armed with the taped confession, investigators arrested Lyle and Eric in March 1990, charging them with the murders of their parents. The brothers' extravagant lifestyle, combined with Eric's confession, painted a picture of cold-blooded killers motivated by greed. The trial of Lyle and Eric Menendez began in July 1993 and quickly became a media sensation. Cameras were allowed in the courtroom, turning the trial into a real-life soap opera. Prosecutors argued that the brothers had killed their parents out of greed, wanting to inherit the family fortune. They pointed to the brothers' lavish spending spree in the months following the murders as evidence of their motive. However, the defense took a different approach. In a shocking twist, Lyle and Eric claimed that they had killed their parents not out of greed, but out of fear. They alleged that Jose Menendez had sexually abused them for years and that Kitty had been complicit in the abuse. According to the brothers, the murders were an act of desperation, a preemptive strike to protect themselves from further abuse. Lyle and Eric described years of horrific sexual and emotional abuse at the hands of their father. They claimed that Jose Menendez had molested them from a young age and that their mother, Kitty, had turned a blind eye to the abuse. The defense painted a picture of a deeply dysfunctional family, with the brothers living in constant fear of their father's violent outbursts and their mother's emotional neglect. The allegations of abuse shocked the nation and divided public opinion. Some believed the brothers' claims, viewing them as victims who had been pushed to the breaking point. Others saw it as a calculated defense strategy designed to manipulate the jury and avoid responsibility for the murders. The first trial ended in a mistrial as the jury was unable to reach a unanimous verdict. Some jurors were convinced by the abuse allegations, while others believed the brothers were guilty of premeditated murder. The case was retried in 1995, and this time the judge refused to allow cameras in the courtroom, reducing the media circus that had surrounded the first trial. In the retrial, the prosecution focused heavily on the brothers' financial motive, downplaying the abuse allegations. They argued that Lyle and Eric had killed their parents to gain control of the family's fortune and had carefully planned the murders to look like a home invasion gone wrong. In March 1996, the jury found both Lyle and Eric Menendez guilty of first-degree murder. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge stated that while the brothers may have been victims of abuse, it did not justify the premeditated murder of their parents. Even after their conviction, the Menendez brothers' case continues to spark debate. Many people remain divided on whether the brothers were cold-blooded killers driven by greed, or if they were victims of abuse who acted out of fear and desperation. The defense's argument of long-term abuse has gained more attention in recent years, particularly as society's understanding of trauma and abuse has evolved. Lyle and Eric Menendez are now serving life sentences in separate California prisons. Over the years, they have both expressed remorse for the murders, though they continue to maintain that the abuse they suffered played a significant role in their actions. The brothers have reportedly reconnected, corresponding through letters and occasional visits. The Menendez case has left an indelible mark on American pop culture, inspiring books, TV shows, documentaries, and even movies. The case was one of the first highly televised trials, setting the stage for other infamous cases like the O.J. Simpson trial. Today, the Menendez brothers' story continues to be explored, analyzed, and debated, with new documentaries and television series revisiting the case and its complex layers. The Menendez brothers' case remains one of the most infamous and polarizing criminal trials in American history. The brutal murder of Jose and Kitty Menendez by their sons Lyle and Eric shocked the nation, but it was the subsequent allegations of long-term abuse that turned the case into a cultural flashpoint. The narrative of greed versus survival raised difficult questions about family dysfunction, trauma, and justice. Even decades later, the question lingers. Were the brothers calculating killers or desperate victims pushed to the edge? As public perceptions evolve and society gains a better understanding of trauma and abuse, the Menendez case continues to be a source of debate and fascination. Their conviction ended one chapter of the story, but the layers of complexity within their family dynamic ensure that the case will remain relevant for years to come. Whether you see them as cold-blooded murderers or as broken sons trying to escape a cycle of violence, the Menendez brothers' legacy endures as a cautionary tale of what can happen when family secrets are buried too deep. What are your thoughts on the Menendez brothers case? Do you think their actions were driven by greed, or were they victims of a toxic, abusive household? Share your thoughts and interpretations in the comments below. If you found this exploration into one of America's most notorious cases engaging, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest true crime stories.